Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Three Stacks in this thing, and of course, I'm representing my team, Team King of Games, all day and every day. So we're going over an update on the deck that I'm playing for this format. It's kind of, I don't know why it's considered Rogue, but it's considered Rogue, which is a Draco variant. It's more or less just like hand trap invoked with the Draco engine splashed in it, and like a True King. It's really cool. I like the interactions that the deck has. It's really competitive. More or less, the deck is meant to not necessarily shut decks down, but to have so many different interactions on their turn and open up with so many threats that it's never easy to just deal with. This is not a deck any deck can walk all over. I've had like the most awkward matchups, like where it's like Pendulum Magicians or Spirals or Trick Stars or sometimes ABCs or sometimes Light Sworns. And my deck breaks it down to where it's a simplified game state, and whoever has the biggest boss monster wins. And Masterpiece is always my trump card, so the hand traps really help to just make things not as crazy as they are, and just make those decks a lot easier to deal with for me. And it comes out to the point where like they have to have the Raigeki or the Kaiju or they lose. And I really do like the deck. This deck has had a very good and high win ratio. In fact, I just took it to card check and got 3rd place. And before that, I was undefeated at Senpai's. I was 1st place. And then before that, I went 2nd place at DNA. In the week before that at DNA, I was actually the undefeated champion with this deck. I really do like it. It's also had a very decent record for the regionals. For some reason, it always goes to X3. There's always like that, oh, I'm about to top, and then you like lose last round due to either time, misplays, or, just like bricky hands. All right, so we're going to hop right into the deck profile. And the tournament report's pretty simple. I played 1, 2, 3 Spirals. I played 1 Dino, and I played 1 Pendulum Magician. But believe it or not, there were a lot more Pendulum Magician players there. I believe it's the hype for the Link monster. So the main deck is as follow. We play 2 copies of Master Penis. He's just amazing, dude. The monster, to this day, he's still one of the most problematic boss monsters, simply because you can make him immune to the thing that your opponent plays the most of. For example, a trap-heavy deck, immune to traps. Like, naturally, you always make them immune to monsters, because every deck's trump cards are naturally monsters. And then, there's an occasional, oh, I have the Raigeki, stuff like that. But this is like the closest thing to being invincible, in my opinion. The monster, he just doesn't care about anything. He just walks all over everything. When these decks are able to open up with all these crazy unbreakable boards, it's so many different threats at once. Masterpiece just comes out in the middle like, I don't care about any of your effects, and I'm just gonna start killing everybody. And he allows me to play through those boards. Like, just it's phenomenal, man. I really like this card a lot. And then, of course, we're playing 1 copy of Mariam, the True Draco Phoenix, not only to give me access to True King of all Chlamydia, but it's an insanely powerful diagram target. And it's rarely like an occasion where you're going to open up with this in diagram. I used to play 3 of this when set rotation was at 3. And then I played 2 of it, and then ultimately went down to 1 just to make room for other cards. But if I could play more, I would. It's just a space issue. To be competitive, I had to cut this for cards that will deal with what my opponent has. But this just is an amazing card. If you can keep this in rotation with True King's Return and keep your diagram up, you're getting never-ending pluses. It's really good. So those are the only Draco monsters that we're playing. And then, of course, next up for monsters, we're playing 3 copies of Mr. Crowley, Alistair the Invoker. It's just an insane card. This monster, it's the reason why I'm able to play so many hand traps and not necessarily brick. Most decks, when their engine is so compact, for example, like Trick Stars, they only really need the Kandina. They can do the same. They can play a bunch of hand traps. But the thing with Alistair is he is the engine. He is the deck. You could play everything, like, you could just play everything different and just keep these 3 cards the same and a couple of his field spells, and he'll make the deck. He'll make it work. Like, he can be the only monster in your deck that you can normal summon, and you'll make it work. He's susceptible to Ash and, strike and stuff like that. But if you resolve him, he just puts you on this pedestal in the game in terms of card advantage, to where now it's like, I have too many threats. I have Masterpiece, I have Mechaba, I have Ash in hand, I have a Solemn Strike face down. I just drolled you. Like, what are you going to do? Let me know how you're going to play through this. Because you have to deal with the Mechaba, you have to deal with the Masterpiece, you have to bait out my Strike, you have to bait out my Ash. And after you deal with all those threats, you still have to make a comeback and make some kind of a board. Like, sack me with the Soul Charge, please. So Alistair the Invoker is just insane. The options that he provides for your repertoire are insane. He's the beneficial accoutrement of the deck. He's a thorn in everyone's side. The monster is just amazing. I feel like these are the things that I would never change about this deck. The Draco engine and the Invoked. They're just way too good. High ceiling in my opinion. He's also a hand trap, so he accounts for the hand trap count. I think we play 18 hand traps in this deck. 18. Including him and evenly matched we played. No, I'm sorry, 19. The blue boy. Just one blue boy. Simply because Alistair and Joel Lockbird are spellcasters. In one of my matchups in Spirals last night, we had the most awkward game where we hand trapped each other, and it came down to a simplified game state where he just normal summoned Tough and passed. And I normal summoned Droll. I Spellbook of Knowledge did. I drew into another Droll and a Mariamne. Then I revealed and special summoned Mariamne, and he had no answer to it, so I attacked over his Tough. And then next turn I made Invoked Mechapa. I overlaid into True King of All Calamities, and he scooped. Like, it's just so weird that like those simplified game states, they kind of pull out the potential of your deck. Well, like I said, the blue boy is more than enough because you actually play 7 spellcasters. And once you see secrets, you see like the entire engine. I opted to play the Spellbook engine over Pot of Desires because I play a tad bit too many one-ofs. And then also when you banish like your Invocation, or you know, when you banish your Ciphering Gear Driver, or when you banish your True King's Return or your Disciples, like you lose really, really beneficial and similar to focal cards, but not necessarily focal. And you'll realize in mid to late game that the Desire screwed you over. So these are the normal summons of the deck, the Alistairs and the Blue Boy. Masterpiece always gets normal summon on my opponent's turn unless I'm going in for game pushes. And that's when I'm going to use my Disciples to make him Spell Monster just to push. And there are also other times when I use Masterpiece and make him with Spell Monster just so that the spell will pop Spiral Resort, so that I can then proceed to target any of their monsters. So the second they summon that sleeper, I'm going to pop it. I'm not going to use him on anything else. They can summon Firewall, they can summon Trigate, they can summon whatever they want, even Baguska. He doesn't care about those. I'm just waiting for the sleeper. And more or less, it'll put them to the point where they don't summon the sleeper, so you don't have to worry about the threat, because they know that as soon as they summon it, Masterpiece is going to kill it. And if they're stupid enough to summon it, I'll wait till they activate Last Resort, and I'll chain to its activation and kill it, and just take that card out their hand. And the next portion of the deck is going to be completely it's just hand traps. Some people aren't going to be happy about it, but this is my competitive deck. This is the deck I take to every event that I want to top. We're playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Springs. The card is just amazing. It's the hand trap that negates the hand traps that negates hand traps. It's the only answer to Gamma unless you have Gamma yourself and you control no monsters. Of course, Ash hits everything else. It's still, in my opinion, it's probably second place. I would definitely say Gamma's better, even though Gamma's kind of situational. It's just what Gamma does is just amazing. But Ash is too annoying, man. There's not a single deck that she can't hit. And then I also opt to playing 3 Ghost Ogres. Ogre has outed so many problems. Unending Nightmares, Time Pendulum Graph, even Helix himself. Dude, I can name so many monsters. Outing, like, it's just insane. You'd be surprised the monsters that it can out. It's crazy. Like when people are idiotic and they summon Borlord and they use his effect to do the lose 500 in defense and attack, and you just ogre him and it's gone. Ogring Firewall. There's so many scenarios where Ogre is just way too clutch. It's an amazing card. I would never not play it at 3. It also provides the light outlet for my Invoked engine. And then in tandem with that, we also play 3 copies of Ciphering Gear Gamma. My favorite hand trap. This hand trap takes number 1 in my opinion. There are too many games where this has determined my victory. And my best bait is Diagram. The funny thing is, sometimes I don't always have the true Draco traps, but I'll set a face down Speller trap if I have it in my hand, knowing that I'm going to pop something else in Diagram just so that it looks like I'm about to make a play with Diagram, so that it puts more pressure on the opponent to make them want to stop the Diagram. Because nobody, even me, I would never let Diagram resolve, because if they have the right cards, they have Masterpiece. And if you were like, dang, if I could have stopped that Diagram and I didn't, now I'm dealing with the Masterpiece. Everybody's going to hit the Diagram. And the thing is, Diagram is the best bait to force your Gamma through. There are other times, you know, where I can force Gamma through in other situations, like, you know, it's a lot of things that came up. Even when I played Paleo, you know, I kaiju'd his face down. It was a Duke Frog. He activated the effect. I forced my Gamma through. It's a lot of situations where you can force your Gamma to where it still resolves. It's just really, really good. And then for more hand chats, we play 3 copies of Joel and Lockbird. Joel and Lockbird is kind of like meh to me, because my deck isn't like an OTK based deck. Granted, if I open up with my Invoke engine and Masterpiece, I cannot OTK them, but I can hit them with over 6,000 damage, which leaves them where, you know, you have a turn to live. So Joel can help me. For the most part, it's more or less for like Spirals and Pendulum Magicians and Trick Stars, the 3 best decks, because when you draw them, yes, they still keep their resources, but the board that they set up, they don't set up the board that really hurts you, like the board that's a hindrance. If they didn't have Reincarnation already, then they're not going to have it. For the Pendulum Magician players, if they couldn't search their Harmonizing Magician, they can't make Omega plays or Baguska. They might make 1 rank 4 and pass. And, you know, concerning Spirals, they pretty much have to open up with the combo. And then after they do, they can only special summon the Master Plan and leave it at that. And it's still a cool board, but it's nothing compared to what they would do. So Dro does help in that aspect. But aside from that, I feel like the card is very lackluster sometimes. He's like, honestly, my least favorite hand trap. I don't know. You know, some people could like have a conflicting opinion with Joel, but I just don't feel like the card is that great in comparison to the other hand traps. They're all still good. That's why I play all of them at 3. And of course, Maxi, the best one. It's crazy. And yesterday I was opting to going second. It's funny. I was realizing like through playtesting, you know, tournaments that I've topped, I always chose to go first. And I was realizing every time I open up, I had like 1 or 2 good cards for going first, like a Strike or an Alistair, and the other 4 cards were all like evenly matched, right, Raigeki or hand traps. And I was like, dude, why don't I just start blind seconding? And the driver's gonna sum up the monster count. So what happened was when I opted to blind second yesterday, and I was playing against Spirals, I 2-0'd every Spiral player except when I made it to the top cut, when we basically played it out instead of, you know, let's split it, share it, and go home. We played it out, and that's when I took my first loss. I was undefeated until the very end. And opting to going second, blind second, the funny thing is you play these mind games. Let's go ahead and start off with the spells. 3 copies of Double D's. Double D's is just amazing. It searches out, you know, everything, and it's really, really powerful if you can keep it up on the field. Like, you get this never-ending loop. It's just so good. Oh my gosh. Double copies of Hot Sauce. I opted to play 2 of this. I really want to play 3 because I'm starting to realize, like, I need to see multiple Alistairs, believe it or not, because it came up too many times yesterday where it got ashed. Like, every single time I normaled him, he got ashed. Or sometimes he got gamut. And the thing was, like, there were a couple times when I opened with this and him, and they didn't know I had the second Alistair. I would play this, and, you know, they'd let it resolve. And naturally, I was trying to bait them to force the gamut through. I thought they were going to draw and Lockbird me after, but it didn't happen. So then, you know, they ashed my Alistair, and I was like, thank God I already had an Alistair in hand. So I really want to play 3 of this. And then, of course, the field spells need to be searched out by Optimus Prime. And also the set rotation. This put in work as well in the Spiral matchup. I just set it as a bluff, flipped it, locked him out of his field spells, and I put Meltdown on for my target because I wanted to invoke Purgatrio. And I did. I Purgatrioed him for game. But yeah, concerning the mind games, like I was saying, it made people think I was playing Shotgun, Blind Second, Spirals, or even Trick Stars. And basically, all they ever saw was my hand traps and my Alistairs. So they think this guy's playing hand trapped Invoke. So what they do is they side deck cards that, you know, that can counteract the Invoke engine. And most people can only side Lancy if they play it. And the thing was, when they see the Masterpiece, it's like, dang, you know what? Like, I wasn't prepared for that. I should have side decked Mistakes. I should have side decked, you know, cards that lock down the Draco engine. I should have side decked this, that, and the other. So it kind of threw people off, and it indeed did help me out. And also giving me the knowledge of what I'm playing, because when I shotgun second and I hand trapped their life and then made a Mecha Ball, most people either scooped, or at that point, they had 1 turn to live because I knew what I had in my hand and I was going to kill them. And it just helped me out because when I side decked, I knew what to side, but they only had partial knowledge of what I played because my deck's a hybrid variant, if it makes sense. I'm continuing with the spells. Double Secrets. Secrets is just too good. And Knowledge. I was drawing Knowledge more than I was drawing Secrets. And it's funny because I'm a firm believer in you draw ultis more. That's why I play ulti Terraformings, ulti Secrets. I play a lot of ultimate rare cards in this deck just because I feel like in my mind they're heavier. But of course my theory was false, and you just draw any card the same amount. Like no card's actually heavier than the others except maybe Europrint. But yeah, I was drawing Knowledge a lot, and like that's why the Joel and Lockbirds helped me. There's sometimes that I drew this as a deck card, and I was surprised because I was like, wait a minute, 3 Terraforming, 2 Meltdowns, 3 Alistairs, 3 Drolls, and the Blue Boy, and this is dead. It's crazy. But it still served its purpose being diagram food. And then, of course, the Draco spells, I'm playing 1 Heritage and also 1 Disciples. I just feel like these cards are Garnets, because when you draw these with no diagram or Masterpiece, they do nothing. And sure, mid to late game, they can actually have more value. They do have 3 great effects. They're awesome spells. I play 0 bad spells. All my spells are great, so I'm happy when I see them. But it's just the time that you see these, which makes them good or bad. If you open up with this, right, and you have a Secrets and like an Alistair, and the rest are hand traps or strike, this does nothing by itself. And if the Secrets play can draw you into the diagram, it becomes a live card, but if not, it's dead. And the best case scenario is it's just a spell to pitch for your Mechaba to negate a spell if you choose to, negate the Raigeki. And then continuing with the spells, we play 1 copy of Invocation. The 1 is perfect for me. The only time where it really sucked and it couldn't it couldn't recur itself was when they actually deburied me. No, he didn't debury me. I'm sorry, he Lancia'd me, and it was my homeboy David Flores. Shout outs to Flores. He Lancia'd me. And the thing was, I had Alistair in Grave, and I was trying to balance Alistair from Grave, and I had already used my Gamma that turn. So I also thought, in hindsight, if I didn't use my Gamma, this right now would have been the ultimate play, because I'm about to Gamma that Lancia, go for the Omega, and then the Mechaba after. But he did. He shut the Invoked engine down. But the funny thing is, the deck has more lines of play outside of that. And then, of course, to sum up the spells, the 1 Raigeki. I feel like an idiot for side decking my Dark Hole because I was shotgun seconding all day. I never chose to go first. Of course, people started making me go first. The thing was, game 1, I would go second. And then game 2, they would try to force me to go first. And I would always, game 2, I would side deck cards for going first. Or I would side out a couple cards that are only good going second. Like I'd side out 1 evenly match or something like that. And then they make me go first because they realize I'm playing a blind second deck. Or the opposite happened twice where I was forced to going second again. And I kept my deck exactly how it was. Because I was gonna go second if I if they told me if I had the choice, I was gonna go second anyways. So it was just funny, the mind games worked, it really does help. For traps, 3 evenly matched. Of course, I've always main decked this even before I changed my strategy to going second all the time. And it's just a really powerful card. It has minuscule impact against my deck because I really don't commit a lot of resources to board. I keep my resources in hand. Naturally, my boards end on either Mechaba and Masterpiece or just Mechaba or Invoked Raijin. Sometimes it's Kaliga with a field spell and maybe a strike face down. Sometimes. At minimum, I'm going to have, maximum, I'm going to have 2 cards on field opening. And I'm going to still have 5 cards in hand. And that's the cool thing about this deck is it mitigates for all of the resources that you expend in your plays. Every play pays for itself, so the boards you make are virtually free. And then for more traps, we're playing 3 Solemn Strike. This deck is more or less, it's balanced and versatile in the sense that it can go second or first and still do its job well. So that's why I opted to playing cards for going first and second in the main deck. Because, the mind tricks work, but if you're forced to going first and your deck has nothing but cards for going second, you're going to draw really nasty and awkward hands. And, an Alistair always helps. So, I feel like Alistair, Diagram, Masterpiece, and Strikes help me out going first. Everything else in the deck assists me with going second. And Alistair does help going second, I admit, because there are times when you're going against Spiral Sleeper. You just normal the Alistair, and you search out Invocation if they don't ash it. You make Mechaba. Then you play your field spell, and if they don't use Sleeper, either way, Mechaba's there to negate and banish the Sleeper. And it did come up where Mechaba did banish the Sleeper, and it helped me. Granted, he did chain Firewall to Alistair's normal summon. So when I made my Invoke Fusion, I couldn't put Invocation back into the deck, which was fine. But the Firewall got baited out. The Sleeper got dealt with. His board was really lackluster at that point. Just 1 Apocalypse and 1 Return. The deck is not necessarily a true Draco deck whatsoever. If you account to the true Draco engine, I really just play 3 of the monsters, 2 of the spells, that's 5 cards, and then 2 of the traps, that's 7 cards. Then you add in the 3 diagrams. I play 10 cards for the Draco engine. And then for the Invoked engine, it's the same thing. I play, 3, 5, 6 cards for the Invoked engine. So I have 16 engine cards. Well, including the spellbooks, I play 20 engine cards, and the rest is just pure, interruption and interaction. For the side deck, we'll do side deck first. 3 anti-spell. This is more or less staple now. A lot of people are hopping on the Pendulum Magician hype, and I feel like the deck is really good. I'm not sleeping on it. It's been the #1 deck for a while until Spirals came out, and when Spirals came out, I always kept it out as my #2 deck. If you look at my top 10s and my meta analysis, I've always said Pendulum Magicians are above Trick Stars. They really are. In my opinion, they are. And then 3 Ghost Reaper. This could come out, but it just depends, because I know Spirals are going to get the hammer, so this might not be relevant for that matchup. But then there's still cards like Heavy Metaphors Electrum, Skull Deep, Crystron Needle Fighter. There's quite a few extra deck monsters that are coming out that are going to make a lot of decks crazy. And I feel like maybe Winter Cherry should stay and we should just change our targets, but who knows? I'm not sure what's going to happen. I was thinking about doing mass change plays with Alistair and just going for Dark Law, stuff like that. I just have a lot of ideas with the deck. 3 Epsilon for the Trickstar matchup, and also for Standby Anti-Spell, Standby Mistake, Standby Skill Drain, Soul Drain, Standby like Artifact Sanctums. It happens sometimes, because once they know what I'm playing, they're like, you know, we're about to, you know, lock you out of your extra deck. There's just like a lot of floodgate traps, and then there's a lot of traps that people can activate on standby that really do hurt me. And even the Pendulum Magician matchup, the Time Pendulum Graph, like, it's really annoying. They naturally flip it on your field spell. Like when I play Diagram or Meltdown, they flip it to try to stop it from resolving, and I'm like, let's force this Epsilon through and go for a double Omega. In fact, it did come up where I made 2 Omegas in one turn off of this and Gamma, and I had another Gamma in hand, but the thing was I don't play 3 Omegas, so the Epsilons are great. And then the Kaijus, which put in work. I'm playing just Gamma, Kumongous, and Dagron. I was realizing, like, I wasn't playing the 3000 Kaiju because I didn't want to give my monster didn't want to give my opponent a monster that can attack over Masterpiece when Diagram's gone, but I was starting to realize, like, it doesn't even come up. So I was like, I need to play a bigger Kaiju for my Slumber plays. And of course the Slumber, the Dark Hole, and the Torrential. I wanted to make Torrential and Solemn Warning cards in my side deck since I don't have space in my main deck, because I wanted more cards to side deck for going first. So more or less you side this and the anti-spells in when you're going first, and everything else for the deck, it just does the job for you, kind of. Like the deck already can go first, as long as, you know, you don't open up with evenly matched and all hand traps when you're going first, which is why I started blind seconding. And then we're playing True King of all Chlamydia and his little brother Syphilis. Just the thorns in your opponent's side. If you're managing your resources correctly, these cards are really, really, really easy to make. This, more or less, these always come out second turn. There have been rare occasions when I made this first turn because I wasted a Droll and Lockbird with Mariamne, popping my Alistair on field, my Droll and Lockbird in hand, summoning Mariamne, and then banishing Alistair and my Ghost Ogre or like another light like Driver or something like that, sending Driver from hand and then making him first turn. It costs resources to make him first turn, but naturally every deck scoops against him, except maybe Pendulum Magicians if they can get that trap online. And then for the Synchros, we're just playing 2 Omega. I actually was playing this card right here, which is Scarlight. I really like the interactions he had, but every time I tried to resolve him, there's too much interference. Like Sleepers, the Time Pendulum Graph Trap, there was just a lot of interference where they would stop him from resolving. Even Firewall would stop him before he get a chance to use his effects. So I was like, Omegas are fine. And maybe Stardust could become a choice. It just depends. And for the Invoked fusions, 3 Mechaba. Mechaba is pretty much the best fusion you want to go into. I play so many targets for him. He's more or less every single turn I'm opening up with him, hand traps, and strike. And if it's not strike, it's just him and hand traps. And I like to account for my opponent's resources, keeping track of the cards they have in their hand. Because as long as, if I have like the same amount of cards in their hand, if I'm doing card for card exchanges, as long as I can keep my field presence or keep an Alistair in hand, I don't care if I lose 4 and they lose 4, because I keep this or I keep Alistair. So now, you know, I'm going to continue negating their plays, which is really, really dope. Like, keeping account of your opponent's resources is important. That's another reason why I feel like the Gamma is so powerful. Forcing your Gamma through, shutting down one of their hand traps, making the Omega, and clearing another card from their hand. So they're starting with 4. And it even happened in my Spiral matchup where, you know, he tried to actually Ash my Terraforming. And I thought that was weird. I don't know why he would Ash my Terraforming, but I was expecting Droll after the resolution of Terraforming. And the funny thing is, I only had 3 cards in hand. So when I played Terraforming, I had 2 cards in hand. So I thought about it and I was like, you know what, maybe it was smart for him to Ash the Terraforming, because I might not have a follow-up after that. So he Ashed it. It forced my Gamma through, and then I Omega'd him. Then after that, I made Mechaba, and I just set my Solemn Strike and pass, and that was enough to get game. Like, it's just really, really powerful, the interactions with Gamma and the Invoked engine. But Mechaba indeed is worthy of the title of just the best. He is Medieval Mikey, by the way. One of my subscribers nicknamed him, and I kept that nickname. He's worthy of the title of just, like, Ultimate Providence on legs. Then we have 2 Raijin. Raijin overperformed yesterday. He was just amazing. Of course, I played 3 Spirals. In every Spiral matchup, I made this card. Not once did he get outed. It was just amazing. I sat on him for 2 turns and then killed him. It's just really, really good. Because the thing with that deck is they're trying to get 2 Spiral monsters on board, and you can put 1 face down. And if they have the Spiral Resort face up, that's a different story. And it did come up where he activated Resort, but first he blind called his Super Agent, and I thought that was hilarious that he did that. He called it right, though. He called Monster, and he summoned his Super Agent. He popped my face down. My face down was actually, I think, evenly matched. I said it because I controlled cards. Like, I had Magical Meltdown and this, and I was like, I know I'm not going to be able to play this in hand, so I said it. He popped my Evenly Match. Then he played Spiral Resort. I chained to it and Book of Moon his Super Agent, and that cut off his combo because he normal summoned Tough. He called it right. He outed this, but he couldn't do the combo, and I made another one of this next turn. It was really good. So, Raijin and Mechaba are the best Invoke fusion. This is for when you open up with too many Alistairs. You make this, you skill drain them. This plus Ash, or even, you know, Strike, stuff like that. It just becomes skill drain for a turn. You can't activate any monster effects. And hand traps are included. So, the best hand trap to have with this monster on the field is Ash. And if not, it's still basically skill drain on legs. You overlay this in the Alistair you normal summon next turn, and you go into Baguska. And I actually made a board like this against Spiral where I made Baguska and Masterpiece. Baguska turned them off. Masterpiece didn't care about the Baguska. And I won off of that board. It's really, really cool that the deck can make boards for free, and they're actually threatening boards. Purgatrio for game. I actually opted to play Mechalangia because I was realizing it comes up a lot, and it's not just the attribute. It comes up a lot to make this 3K beat stick. I'm just pushing for damage. Like, there are times when the biggest Invoke monster I can make was Mechaba, and the funny thing, I was literally off by 500 damage. I was like, dude, and I had the resources to make Mechalangia. I'm not playing him. I need to start playing him. You can put him at 4,000 up to 5,000. He's just the beater of the deck. He really does help. And then Cocytus, because a lot of monsters, a lot of decks can't deal with this. Like, if Spirals can't make Borlo Dragon, their Sleeper can't out this, Firewall can't out this, Tough can't out this. It all targets are destroyed. So if they can't make Borlo, they just can't out this, and it just stays. And the same goes for Trickstars. If they can't make Borlo, they can't deal with this. And then, of course, Pendulum Magicians can out this. I believe they have, like, maybe 1 or 2 cards. Time Pendulum Graph has to not destroy 2. And then there's something else. I just can't think of it. The Cherry Targets. This was very, very in-depth. I just wanted to explain you guys a lot of my reasonings, and also pretty much some card choices that were made, the theories behind them, and how the deck performs. Overall, it's a really, really competitive deck. These are cards that I tweaked around with, and I still am thinking about playing. The Warning. This is maybe when Pendulum Magicians become a thing. I was thinking about side decking this. This is something funny. Me and my teammates went over cards that can shut down Pendulum Magicians. We were even going to start side decking Polymerizations and the Artifact Engine for when you scythe them and they can't go into the extra deck. So they leave their Pendulum Magicians on the field. Then you Polymerization them and summon out the Starving, I think his name is Starving Venom Dragon. He just requires 2 dark monsters on the field. And it's just like, we were thinking of different ways to do it. It was a really good idea, but I was like, let's try like this and maybe Anti-Spell and like D-Barriers, depending on if Pendulum Magicians are going to be that good like we've heard they will be. Jowgen is another card I've toyed around with. The 3rd Magical Meltdown, I really, really want it. 2 Mass Change and also Dark Law because I play Alistair. And I also play Winter Cherry, so, you know, there's ways that we can make it. But pretty much, you just normal Alistair, search Invocation, and then make him. If he gets outed, you still have Invocation in hand. Just a lot of ideas that I had with the deck. So, as you can see, the deck's still going to change in the future. I appreciate you guys for your patience. God bless you. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells, and stay tuned. I've got one more deck profile for today, and it's going to be my take on Spirals. It's pretty much just a little bit different. People were asking me for my Spiral deck profile, and I was like, fine. Really don't like the deck, but we'll do it just because you asked. I love y'all, and definitely stay tuned for future content. I'm going to upload a little bit more before I just go to sleep. Peace.